Hello, everyone. Uh, Thank you for joining us today and welcome. Let me share my screen and we will get started in a minute. Okay. So today we're going to talk about building multi-tenant Saas kind of applications. When a single application works with multiple databases and each customer has their own copy of data. So single application, multiple copies of data. There are multiple approaches to do that, and you can use single database, you can use multiple databases. I believe that using multiple databases is the way to go. You don't need to worry about customers seeing each other data. It's easiest to separate it this way. And this is what we will be doing today. So we have an article in our blog that explains the general idea of how this can be done. We are going to have one main database right here. It's called Saas database, and it's going to hold one table with users. I will show you data in a minute, and a set of customer databases, one database per customer, per user. So the idea is after user is logged in, the idea is to see what database this user belongs to and point user to that database accordingly. So it's pretty simple, only requires a few lines of the code, and you can see it in the article. So what we do here, we store database name in session variable after users logged in successfully. So this is why we need to keep our user database in the main database users table. And then we create a new server database connection, and instead of using hard-coded database name, we use the one that comes in the session variable. And this is pretty much it. Same for ASP.NET. Just save database name in the session variable and then use it to connect to our database. Okay, let me show real quick what kind of data I have here. So let's take a look at Saas database right here, data. So I have a few users here. Admin users is a super admin, and username, password. I'm leaving passwords unencrypted on purpose, so we can see it. We can log on and try it. So user 2 belongs to database 2, user 3 belongs to database 3, and I have created one more user for database 1 when I was experimenting with dynamic permissions. So we'll get to that. So this is kind of the users that we have, and let's see how it works and what's the difference between all of this. Okay, I log out and log on as user 1. So that's a user that belongs to database 1. And if we go to customers table, we can see that we have 2 records here. Okay, if you log out and log on as user 2, oh, permissions. We don't have any permissions here. Okay, let me add permissions real quick so we can see something. Okay, admin should be able to do everything, and default group should be able to do everything as well. Okay, save and go back to Yeah, it is. And customers table. We can see that customers table has 3 records here. So it's user 2 logging into database number 2, and we can see it in directly. If we go directly to our database management application, we can see that customers table in database 1 only has 2 records, and in database 2 it has 3 records. So all what we did, we implemented that idea in after successful login event. We just saving data from database field to session variable, and then we created a new database connection on the output screen right here. And we are, instead of hard-coded database name, we are using one that comes from the session. I have added a couple more lines of code here. It's required when we use dynamic permissions. It's required to specify a default database name. Okay, this is something that is really simple at the start for every Saas application. And let me show you how you can do dynamic permissions. So the idea is to have tables that store dynamic permissions in the user database. So each of your customers will have their own set of permissions, and they can modify permissions, add new users, and everything. So how it's being done? First of all, we go to the security screen, and under permissions, we choose dynamic permissions. And when we click change table settings, we pick up database 1 connection. So we are not storing those permissions in the main SaasDB database. We are choosing to store dynamic permissions in users database. So that's step number 1. What needs to be done here besides this? You need to specify admin user. You can do it either from PHP Runner or Runner.net. But in real life, this is something that you need to do in your code when you create a new user. So let's talk about what needs to be done when a new user is created. Again, it depends of how you want to structure your SaaS application. Maybe you want to create your customers manually. Maybe you just let them register on your website. In either case, there is a list of things that needs to be done when you create a new customer. You need to, first of all, you need to create a database for them. You need to choose a name. It can be some sort of a, maybe you can use the email address and just get rid of any bad characters and create database first. In our example, we're just using databases like database 1, database 2, and I have created them manually. Second step, you need to create dynamic permissions tables in that new database, and as well as some data tables. Again, it depends on your what kind of functionality your SaaS application provides. It can be done in the code. It's just a SQL query that you need to execute and a set of SQL queries. Again, it depends on what kind of application you are building. I'm just explaining the steps. And one more step, you need to add a new record to the members, UG members table. And it needs to have a username of your admin user, and group ID should be -1, which means this is an admin user. Again, I have created it manually, and when I was building this example, but This is something that you would need to do in your code for instance, after successful registration event. So when a new user registers on your website, they specify whatever username, email, and some other information. You create a new database for them, you create database table, you create permissions table, and you specify who's going to be the admin. I mean, that user is going to be the admin. So username, it should be the same username, user2, that you have in Saas DB database in users table. So that's the one that needs to match. That's a username. Okay. So what happens now? Let's take a look at okay, database 2, right? Let's go back to the web browser. Yeah, right here. Okay, user 2. Let's see, it's a database 2. Let's go to the admin area, add edit users. That's the admin user. Let's add a new one. And username is going to be something that we understand. We will use db2 prefix, and it will be test2. db2 test2, the same password. Click save, back to list, and user is here, and we don't have any groups really here right now. So that user will be by default assigned to the default group. So if we take a look at our database here right now, we can see this new user, db2 test2, and then belongs to database 2. Okay, let's see what happens when this user is logged in. So we go log out and log in at this new user. And they are logged into database number 2 because that's what it does. It's we can see that this user belongs to database 2, and this user is able to see all the tables in database 2. Okay, that's kind of makes sense. And we can see that this user is not an admin. So if database 2 admin creates new users, they will be just regular users. They don't have access to the admin area. So only the main user will be able to create new users and assign permissions. So this is how it works with dynamic permissions. The key is to choose to store dynamic permissions tables in users database, and also to create admin user. Again, since it's an automated process, you will need to do that in your code. Create database tables, create permissions tables, and specify admin user. Okay, I hope it makes sense, because lots of customers ask us about how specifically use dynamic permissions. If you use static permissions, it will be much easier, and you would not to do anything like this. It's you can just specify the same permissions for all users, and you don't even need permissions tables and everything. But in applications that are a little bit more complex, you definitely want to use dynamic permissions, and this is how you can do it in a Saas application.